Hi everyone, it's Maya from Green Plate Special, and today we are going to be doing some baking. We're going to be using one of my favorite spring vegetables, which is rhubarb. It's technically the stem of the rhubarb plant. It's often paired with strawberries in a strawberry rhubarb crisp or a strawberry rhubarb pie, and today we're going to be using just rhubarb for our baked good. We're going to be doing a rhubarb upside down cornmeal cake. I know flour is a little bit hard to come by right now, and so we're going to be using mostly cornmeal for this recipe. Rhubarb is a perennial plant, so that means that it comes back year after year, and you'll see it growing in Seattle all throughout the early spring through till the late fall, but it's at its sweetest and its tastiest in the spring through to the early summer, so just for when strawberries start to come into season in June here in Seattle. So to start off this recipe, you're going to be chopping up your rhubarb, about 3/4 pound of rhubarb, into about 1/2 inch to 1 inch pieces, and you're going to be cooking it on the stove top in the same pan that you're going to be putting into the oven with the cake part on top. If you don't have a pan that's both stovetop and oven proof, you can do the rhubarb piece in a pan and transfer it to a different oven proof baking dish that you put the cake part on top. I'm just gonna do it all in one. It makes it really easy. So I'm gonna start off by chopping my rhubarb. It's nicely washed here, putting it on its flat side, trimming off both ends. And then I'm just gonna start slicing it. Rhubarb slices kind of like celery. It's a little bit fibrous, so you really got to make sure that you do your follow through here. All right, so we've got our rhubarb all nicely chopped up, and we're gonna add a few more ingredients to this pan here that we're gonna cook down over the stove. First up, we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of butter right here. And we're gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're gonna add our 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract here. We're gonna add a tablespoon of lemon juice. Just gonna squeeze it right into my tablespoon measure here. All right. And we're gonna add, the recipe calls for a cup of sugar. I'm gonna do half maple syrup and half sugar and just dial it back by a tad. So I've got my 1/4 cup measure here. I'm gonna do 1/4 cup of sugar, and I think I'll do just over a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And we're gonna cook this down over the stove until it gets nice and gooey to like a jam consistency. You can stop right there actually with rhubarb. It's really tasty as a compote in your yogurt or on toast in the morning. All right, so we've got our rhubarb cooking on the stove here. It's been going for just a couple minutes. The butter is almost totally melted and it's getting nice and bubbly here. And we're gonna just keep it going while we start mixing our dry ingredients for the cake part. All right, so we're gonna mix together our wet ingredients first. We've got 1/2 cup of melted butter here that's unsalted that I'm gonna put into my large bowl. 2/3 cup of sugar. Again, you can dial it back a little bit if you would like to make it not quite so sweet. So I did about a little less than 2/3. Gonna just whisk my sugar into my butter first up. And then I'm gonna do my 2 eggs in here as well. Whisk that up, and we'll add our dry ingredients that we're about to do in a moment to this larger bowl. All right, we're gonna mix our dry ingredients together now. We've got a cup of finely ground cornmeal going in. We're gonna do half and half of all-purpose and cornmeal, but you could definitely do a little bit more cornmeal and then just dial back the flour if you'd like. So we did 1 cup of cornmeal and 1 cup of all-purpose flour, but you can experiment with other types of flour as well. So we got our half a teaspoon of salt going in and our half a teaspoon of baking soda. And we're gonna give that a stir to get them all combined here. And then we're gonna slowly incorporate our dry ingredients into our wet ingredients. And I'm gonna just double check how our rhubarb is doing. It's bubbling, I can hear it sizzling on the stove. So I'm just gonna double check it here. It's starting to cook down quite a bit. We're gonna keep it going for just a couple more minutes. One of my favorite recipes, partially because you can add any kind of fruit that you would like or mix of fruit to the base and then just do this kind of multi-purpose cornmeal cake on the top. I've used berries before, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. You could do strawberry rhubarb if you want. Basically, this recipe is very flexible, so you can really make it your own. You could add cinnamon to this cornmeal cake if you would like, or other spices. So I've got my batter here going for the cake part. That's gonna go right on top of the cooked rhubarb. And then we're gonna put it in the oven. And when we take it out, it's called an upside down cake because you can then kind of flip it over so that the fruit is on top, or you can leave it with the fruit on the bottom, either way. All right, y'all, I almost forgot a very important ingredient, which is the buttermilk, 1 cup of buttermilk. My batter here is looking a little bit pasty, and so that's why I realized that I forgot a liquid ingredient as well. If you don't have buttermilk, you can use yogurt as a substitute. That's what I've got going on here. You can also use milk and lemon juice as well, mixed together as a substitute for buttermilk. So I'm gonna mix this buttermilk into my batter here. And it's gonna be more of a cake-like consistency, a little bit thinned out. All right, everybody, just took my rhubarb off the heat here. It's bubbling, it's smelling really sweet and delicious. Rhubarb on its own is pretty sour. Although you can cut it up really thinly, put it in a salad. It's got a really nice sour crunch that way. You can also macerate it with some sugar and eat it raw that way. And again, cook down. It's just really beautiful and delicious like this. So I'm gonna spread this out to the edges of my pan and let it cool for a few moments like that. All right, so I'm gonna spoon my batter over the rhubarb here in the pan. And then I will spread the batter out to the edges of the pan so that it's evenly distributed, and stick it in the oven at 375. I'm gonna just spatula here so I can get all of this really delicious batter out. All right, so I'm smoothing out my batter as close to the edges as I can get. And then we're gonna stick this in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes or until the toothpick stuck into the middle comes out clean. And we'll see you in a bit. All right, y'all, check it out. We've got our beautiful rhubarb cornmeal cake here. I've let it cool in the pan, so I'm gonna just cut out a slice from the pan itself. If you did want to overturn the cake so that the rhubarb is on top, like an upside down cake, then all you would do is take a big plate like this, put it on top of your pan, and then holding the bottom of the plate, you're gonna wanna just flip the whole thing over and give it a little jiggle so that it all comes out onto the plate. but I'm not gonna do that because I let it cool in the pan. And so we're gonna just slice it up. It took exactly 30 minutes in my oven to bake. And this is really good with a dollop of whipped cream or vanilla ice cream or yogurt. Looks really delicious. Rhubarb is super high in potassium and also vitamin C. 1 cup of rhubarb raw is over 10% of your daily dose of vitamin C. Just make sure not to eat the leaves. All right, let's see how it tastes. Moist, tart, sweet. I'd highly recommend it. Also, just make sure to look at our website to find the recipe, and I'll see you all soon. Hope you're having a great day.